Does it ever happen that you are trying to intubate with video laryngoscope? You can't intubate and then you have to use the regular laryngoscope and intubate. Does it happen anytime to you people?
It has happened, and it has happened such that it was much more simpler by conventional Macintosh than the video laryngoscope.
I felt no, that's the video laryngoscope is Macintosh is going to remain there.
I'm a private anesthesiologist. I don't have a video laryngoscope. But can you tell me two indications when I should call you, when I should keep in mind that, yes, I should first think of video laryngoscope. So can you tell me one or two indications?
So if means I will say that I will want to use it for each and every patient. But if you ask me two absolute indications where I'll pick up a video laryngoscope first, it is a patient with increased BMI, or obese patient, short neck, or with a double chin. And the second will be a edentulous patient, unless and until I have Dr. Tarun Doshi's blade available. Cosmetic upper incisors. These are the two indications which I'll definitely want to use a video laryngoscope.
Have you ever used video laryngoscope to assess the airway preoperatively?
Yes, I was called twice where they could not intubate the patient. So the surgery was postponed, and then they had called me because I have that video laryngoscope. So then in this patient, since they knew why the surgery was postponed, so I had just gone ahead, explained to them that I'm going to put the scope inside and just check if everything is all right there. So using a lot of jelly, I had just introduced the scope, and when I could visualize the glottis, that is when we had gone ahead and induced the patient.
Everyone is talking about lot of advantages and all rosy pictures about video laryngoscopes. So can you tell me some disadvantages or some complications you had with video laryngoscope?
Oh, yes, the major, I won't say disadvantage, but drawback would be the cost of the video laryngoscope. If it was a bit cheaper, I think everybody will start using a video laryngoscope. Second major disadvantage, I'll say that we are so confident using a Macintosh laryngoscope. So we feel that now that the video laryngoscope is much easier, I'll directly take a video laryngoscope and intubate. But definitely there is a learning curve for each and every video laryngoscope. There is a different learning curve. Third major disadvantage, I would say, is the screen. The seeing on the screen doesn't guarantee a smooth passing of the endotracheal tube. Like on the screen, we see a two-dimensional picture, right? So there is no depth perception for the anesthetist. So we will see a very clear, nice view of larynx. Larynx is just there in front of me. But then the passing of the tube is a bit tricky, and that definitely needs some experience. That would be the major disadvantages of video laryngoscope, I feel.
Is there something like blind spot?
Yeah, so that will come in complications, like regular complications of laryngoscope, like injury and laceration to lip and teeth and all will be there. But major complications of a video laryngoscope are injury to the right side of the right side structures of the oral cavity, like the soft palate and right side tonsil and all. So why these injuries are happening in video laryngoscope is because of this blind passage or blind spot. Now, what is this blind spot? I'll tell you. First, we are introducing the blade of a laryngoscope. Then we are seeing on the screen very nice larynx. So now we want to pass a tube. So what we will do is we will see at the screen and pass the tube, and that is the main error which we are committing. So what we have to do is we have to see in the oral cavity and pass the tube, because the camera is at tip of the blade, right? So we can't see the tube passing through the oral cavity till it reaches the camera. So that area is a blind passage or blind spot. So if we see at the screen and we are passing the tube in the larynx, you are definitely going to cause some injury. So the sequence will go like this. First, you have to under vision pass the laryngoscope blade. Then see the screen and adjust your screen. Then see in the oral cavity and pass the tube. When the tip comes near the camera, see on the screen and pass the tube. So this is the blind passage which you have to avoid.
Do you open the mouth always with the scissor action?
Not necessary, it depends.
I am more worried like now.
Sometimes with King's Vision, it has a very hyperangulated blade. So passing the blade through the oral cavity becomes a bit tricky in hyperangulated blades. There we have to tilt the blade to 90°, cross it on the tongue, then change the angle and then pass it down, and then you can see the laryngeal view.
Madam, you have used Medicam also and King Vision also. Not to specify the specific anything to the company, but can you tell us the difference, or can you tell us for a normal airway, which would you choose, or any random choose?
For normal airway, Medicam is ideal, I feel, because we have many sizes and types of blades in Medicam. King's Vision has only 2 blades with same curve, but it is channel and non-channel, right? So the curvature is hyperangulated and there will be a bigger learning curve. But in Medicam, we have a regular Macintosh blade also, then D blade also, Flexitip blade also. So it is better to start learning with the Medicam in regular laryngoscopy.
Can you tell us some difference between King Vision and BPL? What you found practical difference?
Yeah, see, now with BPL monitor, it is the modified Macintosh type of the blade. So with slightly restricted mouth opening also, I can insert it from the lateral side, come to the midline, and then just lift and visualize the epiglottis, go underneath it and intubate the patient. Also, BPL has a very bright and big screen comparatively, I would say. And the screen size is also bigger and it's a rotating type of screen. So even for the assistant, it becomes quite easy to manipulate with the guide wire or the pressure or the external laryngeal maneuver if the assistant wants to give. And also the cost of the disposable blade, I would say with BPL, I think it's affording. Even during COVID period, even that matters. Now coming to the KV, it has a detachable screen. So, and the blade is hyperangulated. So specifically when I anticipate anterior larynx, I would prefer the King's Vision because of the hyperangulated blade and patient with a short neck and huge breast. When the insertion of the blade is easier after detaching the screen, once I'm inside, I get a click, I attach the screen, and then I go and I visualize, which is not possible with a fixed screen type of, like as I say in BPL monitor.
But the BPL screen is movable, right?
Movable, yeah. So then just a slight traction without any further neck movement, the intubation becomes easier with K.
So while introducing the video laryngoscope, how far should I introduce? What is the best view, and should tracheal rings be seen?
See, when we are doing a normal routine Macintosh laryngoscopy, you cannot see the parts and you say it's a difficult intubation. Now, when I'm using a video laryngoscope, I can see the parts, still I'm not able to intubate. My first patient I remember was a 52 kg thin built patient and still I could not intubate. So next case I was like, I will use video laryngoscope only. Fully charged, I had taken that King's Vision with me. 56 kg patient, still I am not able to intubate. So maybe with the Macintosh laryngoscope, we are used to going inside, lifting with a great force and then trying to see the cords and then intubate comfortably, no problem. With video laryngoscope, because of the hyperangulation, the angle of vision that we see, it's from camera to trachea. So in that case, the tube tends to go posteriorly. So when you see the cricoid ring in this, that is also called coaxine, if you can see the cricoid ring, that means the view is excellent, but you have gone too much inside. Now, when you are passing in the tube, you are lifting it, you are lifting under the epiglottis and your tube tends to go into the esophagus. So what you have to do, come out, visualize the epiglottis, lift up, and you should see a 50-50 view, what we call. So 50% of the cord should be seen and 50% of the surrounding structure is seen. And then you try to pass the tube underneath the epiglottis, in the glottic.
You do a lot of obese patient, as you said, patient with short neck. So any different way you introduce the video laryngoscope blade or any different head and neck position which you like to keep for these patients?
All of these patients, I would say, are not difficult intubation patients. It's more of a ventilation problem, I would say, than the intubation. So, see, I cannot say that definitely it's a difficult intubation only. I have to see other factors also. But the position that I preferred in this is ramp up position. That is the ear to sternum in a parallel line. And the laryngoscope, preferably, I am using King's Vision most of the time. So preferably, I detach the screen, undergo with the blade. I get a click, attach the screen, visualize the epiglottis, give a mild traction, lift it, and then introduce the tube. Any difficulty found, use a bougie, guide the bougie in the trachea, overload the tube over the guide wire. Now, if I am alone, I attach the screen, feed the tube in the channel, go along with it, and introduce the my tube over the guide wire when there is nobody available with me to assist me with attaching the screen.
Madam, which video laryngoscope do you frequently use? And whether you use any channel or unchanneled blade or any different blade for a male patient or a female patient?
You asking me what video laryngoscope I have. I am using last 5-6 years King Vision. It has a channel blade as well as unchanneled blade. So when we started using, I was more comfortable using channel blade because there my introduction is very smooth. Introduction of the tube in the glottis, because the during the video laryngoscopy you may be able to see the larynx, but the introduction of the tube at the glottic aperture and further insert the tube into the larynx, so many times it has been a challenge. So when I compare to channel blade, for me, I always felt that channel blade was more easy to use, and unchanneled blade, we have to take support of the sometimes stillet or bougie or something, and still that what we already discussed, blind spot is there and possibility of trauma is also there, and it takes a longer period for tracheal time, tracheal intubation time. So I prefer using channel blade.
As you mentioned, for unchanneled blade, we require stillet. So are there some special stillets that has to be used with video laryngoscopes, or?
Special stillets, I am not as of till now aware that any manufacturer is selling a special kind of stillet along with their video laryngoscope, but most of the manufacturers, they recommend that the tube should be introduced at the angle of between 45 to 90 degrees. Because ultimately all this, most of the video laryngoscopes are having hyperangulation at the distal line, and we are not aligning the oropharyngeal laryngeal axis. So we need more angulation compared to our conventional Macintosh laryngoscopy. So there we need to use stillet, and stillet, as we all have availability of metallic stillet, malleable, or the plastic with support of metal inside. Both stillets are there. We have to make it more of a hockey stick at the end, then it is more easy to pass the, but again, over the stillet, making the lower end hockey stick shape, introduction and insertion into the larynx sometimes is a problem, because as soon as you get on the glottis, we have to withdraw the stillet and then introduce the tube. Along with stillet, we will not be able to further down the tube into the trachea.
Yeah, there are a lot of theories and how to introduce the tube, what is the best view. Suppose I have a case of Ludwig's angina. Can I use it to induce, or should I avoid video laryngoscopy?
Definitely, I will, by preference will be the video laryngoscope for this particular case, because number one, area of vision is more compared to other two, I mean direct laryngoscopy and fiber optic. Number two, it will cause less trauma, because your vision is more, that will help you not to make any trauma. And third, it takes lesser time to intubate. It has been uh, statistically seen that video laryngoscopy, if you do and intubate in such patients, it takes lesser time compared to other two. And adding to that, most important, your assistant will be in a position to see what you are doing inside, because this is a problem of upper glottic situation. So the person who is helping you needs to know how to manipulate the tube and where to give pressure and everything. Whatever is needed, he will be in a better condition to know, and he can help you in a better way. So these are the situation. Definitely, it will make video laryngoscopy much more easier to intubate.
So all infections around the neck, around the oral cavity, video laryngoscope will give us a better view. Suppose,
It depends.
sir, suppose
Yes.
anteriorly I have a big thyroid sitting there and I have to induce. So which would you prefer, a routine Macintosh or a video laryngoscope?
If big thyroid, definitely I would like to go for a video laryngoscope. As I told you, vision is much more better, and the most important, thyroid, it is infraglottic problem. So there will be compression in the larynx rather than upper glottic, so supraglottic. So in that situation, it is more important for the assistant to know exactly where your tube is moving and how you want it to be manipulated. So that way, it is very important that you use video laryngoscopy in such patients.
Okay, thank you so much.
And I wanted to tell you, before I use video laryngoscope in Ludwig's angina, I would like to topicalize the airway with local anesthetic. It is extremely important to do that before you go for the video laryngoscopy in Ludwig's at least, because otherwise you can land up in problem.
You use a 10% lignocaine spray?
I use 2% viscous, lidocaine viscous gargling, and 10% local, and 4% for the nebulization. Sometimes we use also a tincture benzoin nebulization, and sometimes with adrenaline with xylocan.
Okay.
For nebulization, so that
for
bleeding,
nebulization.
if there is any injury, then bleeding will be less.
Okay, okay, sir. Sir, that introduction of the endotracheal tube through the cords. So even if in the first two instances, even as I said, I had a learning curve, we see the cords, but the tube is not going. Suppose my tube abuts posteriorly. Is there a specific way I should turn it, or I have to just keep on maneuvering?
When your tube is going posteriorly, that means you are a little bit away from the vocal cord. So you have to advance your blade a little bit ahead. So then you align your tube with the vocal cord.
So the video laryngoscope blade, I have to advance a
little bit. So that your tube, I am talking about the channel. I am talking about the channel where you have already fitted the tube. So
and any rotation of the tube required?
Obviously, it depends. It depends. Most of the time you have to rotate to anti-clockwise a little bit. Sometimes you have to rotate your scope in totality, and sometimes you have to rotate your tube also anti-clockwise. So you get into the position align with the vocal cord.
You use video laryngoscope for all your commando patients. So can you just tell us in detail the induction, like how you do it, use it for awake or with sedation or with propofol or spontaneous or with muscle relaxant?
Two things are there using video laryngoscope. One is about the mouth opening. How much is the mouth opening? This video laryngoscope usually I am using for the between cases where there is some mouth opening, and the fiber optic I'm using where there is no mouth opening. So video laryngoscope we can use around 2 centimeter mouth opening if patient is having and we are not confident about the Macintosh blade regular laryngoscope intubation. So here the tricky part is, though we all commando intubations are nasal, right? So even if we pass a non-channel blade of a laryngoscope in the oral cavity, it is fine. But what is important is you have to make sure that your channel blade will pass through the oral cavity. So in case there is some problem during intubation, at least you can, with channel blade, you can intubate the patient orally and rescue the situation by giving the oxygenation. That is one thing. Second thing is preparation of the patient. Nasal cavities becomes very important here with video laryngoscope, because even if there is a slight bleeding, then the whole thing will become very messy. And also a glycopyrrolate for all my patients, for commandos, in between this 2.5 centimeter mouth opening. Then vasoconstrictor nasal drops like Otrivin or something we have to put, plus adequate jelly. And most important, I would like to mention here, which applies for all nasal intubation, is when we see the nasal cavity, which nasal cavity we have to pass. Usually what happens, there is a DNS and there is a shift of the septum on one side, and we select a nasal opening. But what is more important here is the patient is having DNS, he is breathing through that nostril, and there is an inferior turbinate hypertrophy there. So your bougie will not pass through that nasal opening. So you have to be aware that maybe you will have to use the another nasal opening for this. Second thing is, always pass a bougie first. Never go with tube directly. Gently pass a bougie through the nose. Pass a non-channel blade through the oral cavity, guide your bougie in the larynx, and then pass your tube with lot of jelly on the cuff area on the bougie into the larynx. So that will be the sequence of intubation with this video laryngoscopes. But
Thank you so much.
One more point I would like to add is, when you are working where there is no fiber optic standby, you should be ready for a tracheostomy. Surgeon should be ready for a tracheostomy in this case, in case it is required. And places where there is a fiber optic, then that is not an issue. You can always shift to fiber optic laryngoscope in these cases.
Yeah, that reminds me, just today I read one article where there was a huge thyroid and they did with direct laryngoscopy, they couldn't see much. They used fiber optic, but because of the distortion of the airway, they were struggling. There was edema, there was bleeding. And finally, someone in the team suggested that why not try a video laryngoscope? And video laryngoscope was tried after fiber optic, and it was a smooth intubation. So
that is because I would like to add is, video laryngoscope, fiber optic gives a very narrow view of what we are doing. Video laryngoscope gives us a wider view of the larynx and overall structures. Even where we are sucking, usually the nasal bleeding will go on the posterior pharyngeal wall, right? So before you are sucking the blood, and before the blood trickles down, again you are able to intubate the patient with video laryngoscope. That is the biggest.
yes.
Best, I feel, what this Shama madam was saying, that will be the ideal thing. Put video laryngoscope in oral cavity, use the fiber optic as a guide wire through the nose, guide it through the thing, because while passing a tube on fiber optic, we can't see the view where the tube is going. That part will be done by video laryngoscope in the oral cavity. So that will be an ideal intubation, I feel, if available facilities are there.
Yes, yes. Thank you so much. Dipali madam, I would like to know, as you have initially said, that you would like to use video laryngoscope for micrognathia, for any edentulous patient. So actually, initially, I was very apprehensive. Whether with micrognathia, my video laryngoscope will have a leverage or it will come out. What is it? Can I use in these patients?
Yes, I feel in fact definitely, because whenever I see a receding chin, a receding mandible, the first thing I will think of is a video laryngoscope, because I feel maybe you may just have to introduce it more inside, and the leverage required also will be less. So typically in these patients with micrognathia, a receding chin, a video laryngoscope, there will be less struggle also to visualize the glottis. And I think we can keep a bougie ready. And in these patients, again, we can even do a trialscopy especially with a King Vision. That's what I had done for those two patients. So then we can even do a trialscopy in these patients.
The biggest advantage of video laryngoscopy is we can always do a Preoperatively check scopy. Yeah.
check scopy.
Yes.
And even like for thyroid, means I have many times, even in thyroid, for even post-op, after extubation, you can actually show the surgeons also the moving cords.
Yeah, it's easier without the
It is
patient
easier,
much gagging. Yeah.
Patient gagging, especially when we do it with the DL scope.
Dipali, madam, you also shared one experience with me where you were called in emergency and video laryngoscope was useful. Can you share that experience?
No,
Where,
okay. It was twice. It was, I think one patient was postponed and reposted after 2 days. So that was a complete failed intubation. So this, it was for a hysterectomy. And for this patient, I did the trial scopy and then I went ahead and induced the patient. And there were some 3-4 other patients where I had gone immediately because they couldn't intubate. But then for me, it was like the vision was, it was the intubation was very easy.
so you were called in emergency. Sorry.
Yeah, emergency. It was some 3-4 times. But these 2 patients, I clearly remember they had postponed the surgery. Then I had gone and I had done a trial, a check scopy first, and then because the rest of the 4, the patients were already induced, right? I just went in directly. But in all, the intubation was very smooth. The visualization was very good.
How do you find video laryngoscope in COVID times with aerosol box or with plastic drape?
In fact, when the COVID time started, I had switched over. I've been using video laryngoscope now. Only video laryngoscope I use for past 4 years, maybe more than that. But when COVID started, I had totally stopped because I had that hitch. How am I going to sterilize it? Putting it in the patient's mouth. So then, but then eventually I did shift back again to video laryngoscope. And now I feel it's more easier. The struggle is less compared to, because initially I started with the aerosol box. So the struggle with a regular Macintosh was more compared to when I switched over to the video laryngoscope. And even under the sheet also, there is a different kind of confidence that you will be able to see and you will be able to pass the tube. Because when I shifted to video laryngoscope, past 4 years, I totally given up scoline intubation. So it was a intubation on a long-acting muscle relaxant. So then you have a lot of time to intubate. But scoline, I think you need that time is very important over there.
Yeah.
So here I feel if you can visualize the cords, there is someone standing, the proper pressure given, it is more faster. And under the sheet, like how sir had shown one of those videos, you had shown the video. So over there, since you can see, the intubation is also more quick. The struggle is definitely less. It is more relaxing also to the coronaries.
Yes, very much.
The question Dr. Dipali has mentioned twice that we do trial scopy first. Can you just explain a little bit of that, please? I do it, of course, quite regularly, but Dr. Dipali, if you can explain what is this trial scopy?
So these patients, when I had gone, were awake. So then I had explained to them, and see, they obviously knew because the surgery was postponed. So we just explained to them that I will be putting this instrument in your mouth and I'll be visualizing the glottis if that is possible. And then we go ahead. Both of them had cooperated. And with, especially with King Vision, the blade doesn't, you just need to go somewhere mid tongue level. So there is no gag. The patients actually cooperate. You can, if you can, and with that, if you can visualize the glottis, then you can go ahead and induce the patient.
Yeah.
Other than that, you can prepare the airway and then go ahead. Means, yeah, in these 2 patients, I could have really prepared the airway also and gone ahead, but then the patients had cooperated. So that was one advantage which I felt of the video laryngoscope.
Thank you, sir. Suppose I have a fixed spine or a rheumatoid arthritis. Is there any special technique with which I should introduce the blade?
Now, these patients have fixed curvature of the spine. So first of we need to give a proper positioning also to the patient. Now, how do we position this patient? We put a pillow under the head and the shoulder. Also try to bend the knee slightly so that the horizontal curve that we have gets aligned and then the vision improves slightly. Now, if I have a good mouth opening in this patient, obviously I will proceed with my hyperangulated blade and go ahead. But if I feel the access atlantoaxial extension is not proper and mouth opening is also restricted, it is better in private practice not to touch and call for a fiber optic intubation. Okay. Now, while introducing the blade, if it's a planned surgery, I would prefer doing a chexcopy, as Dr. Dipali said.
Okay, thank you so
I
much.
will try. I will try to do a chexcopy and then decide for the intubation. And if it patient is coming for emergency surgery, preparation for the fiber optic, introduce the blade from the lateral side. Give a jaw thrust. Introduce. Attach the screen. Visualize. Most of the time, you are going to get a 3 or 4 Cormac-Lehane view. Be prepared for that. The first reaction is you get panic. Now, panicking situation won't help. So now you analyze how can you improve the vision. Okay, so this is slightly lifting the head may improve the vision with a video laryngoscope, and with the help of a guide wire you can introduce the tube. Or what you can do, you do an external laryngeal maneuver. While you are doing the scopy, somebody is pressing on the cords, you visualize. Even if you can visualize the epiglottis, you pass your bougie. Now, how are you sure that your bougie is inside the trachea or it has gone in the esophagus? Because you cannot see the glottic opening. So most of the time when you reach the carina at the level of the bifurcation, you get a tracheal click. Now, when you appreciate this click, that means most of the time you are in the trachea. Okay, over this guide wire, you slide in your tube, come out with the scope and fix.
Yeah, there was a very, very important tip. Suppose I have a patient with Burns contracture of the neck, has come for dressing. I don't want to put an LMA. I want to put a tube. Can I use a King Vision? Can I use a video laryngoscope?
Yeah, because see, bun contracture has a flexion deformity basically. Because of the fibrosis in the neck, you are not going to get extension at the atlantoaxial joint. So, and you will not be able to align the all three axes. So, check video laryngoscopy you can do, and then depending on, you, of course, don't try your video laryngoscopy first time in the Burns contracture patient. First, get totally used to and trained in normal patient, and then only go ahead. And definitely video laryngoscopy is useful provided the mouth opening is adequate.
Yeah.
So many times mouth opening may not be adequate, and that will create an issue. So first check laryngoscopy.
Okay, great. Similarly, if you have a protruding incisors, would you like to use a video
Protruding
laryngoscope?
incisor, I feel, is the indication for video laryngoscopy, because I think no anesthetist can claim that मैंने आज तक किसी का दांत नहीं तोड़ा है during whole my career. You know, I myself must have broken many times, and once patient had not given me history and her tooth everls. So that time actually I felt that why did I not use a video laryngoscope? So protruding teeth, buck teeth, all these cases are the indication according to me for the video laryngoscopy.
Yeah, thank you so much. Suppose actually it would have been better if I would have shown a photo. If there is a mass right in front of the mouth or over the neck or sitting in the oral cavity, would you still use a video laryngoscope?
Yes, as I told you earlier, that area of vision becomes very clear. Then I will prefer to have a video laryngoscope, because I will be able to see what is inside and what I am handling. Before going for this procedure, definitely I would like to know about the vascularity of that structure, because that is most important. If the structure is very vascular, probably I need to be very careful, and at the same time probably I will keep the tracheostomy team ready, because in case patient bleeds and before I could intubate, then patient can aspirate and can have problem. So that team needs to be kept ready. And once you start taking the patient on spontaneous by inhaled agents, sevoflurane or oxygen, then most of the time you easily can go ahead and intubate the patient without any problem, because the masses which you are seeing from outside, once you go inside, most of the time you can maneuver your blade so that you can reach to the glottic area without creating any problem.
Yeah, that's a very important message. When we are using the video laryngoscope, we can actually see and maneuver and get our way through the oral cavity. Even if there is mass in the vallecula, will you like to use video laryngoscope? Sir?
Yes, yes, same, yes, obviously. Yes, I would like to use the video laryngoscope.
Yeah, thank you so much.